All right. So, my name is Luiz Rose. I work for Cambridge, right? And I'm here to talk to you about grammar today. Do your students like grammar? So. Do you find it more difficult to teach grammar to children, teenagers, or adults? Children, teenagers. Why? They don't find it interesting. They find it boring. Yeah, grammar can be boring, but it can also be fun, right? It depends on how you approach it. Okay, so let me ask you a question. Is grammar important? What do you think? Why is it important? Why? Okay. It's the basis of the language, right? It's the foundation. Right. What about the rules, the grammar rules? Are they important? Can you use grammar without rules? No. Right. Yeah, so they are essential. Even if a person does not realize, for example, a small child does not realize it's using a grammar rule when it is speaking the language. But they are, right? So even if you don't realize that you are using a grammar rule, if you are speaking correctly, you are using the grammar rule. Do you agree? Okay. But should the grammar rules be the main focus of a student's English studies? No, of course not, right? The grammar rules are important, but not that important to be the focus of a lesson, right? Okay, so the focus should be communication, right? And the grammar rule is part of it. Or the grammar rules are part of it. Okay? So, we see children here. Do children, especially native speakers, do they learn grammar with the rules, by the rules? No, they usually learn it naturally, by repeating, right? By making sense in their own heads, right? By playing, yes, mostly by repeating, right? They see, they hear, and they repeat, right? Okay. What about native speakers? Do native speakers learn grammar, the grammar rules? No, even if they don't go to school. Schools in the USA don't teach grammar rules. Only foreigners learn grammar rules. So when they come to Brazil, for example, to teach English, they need to learn grammar. Yes, if you ask an American, for example, what's the first conditional, they will say, what? what's the question tag? Never heard of that, right? So this is something teachers need to learn in order to teach, right? No, I'm talking about native speakers who work in normal schools, ordinary schools, right? If you're talking about the language schools, normally they learn grammar to teach. Okay? Why is that? Why do you think they don't learn grammar in school? They hear all the time, and English grammar is simple. It's not that complicated, right? So when a person hears it all the time and they can process what they have learned, they don't need to learn the special cases, right? Because it's natural to them. Okay, they can. Sorry, and yes, they make mistakes. They make mistakes. Yes, one thing that really bothers me is when they say, "If I was." Right? And it's a common mistake, right? People in spoken English, in colloquial English, many people use "if I was," right? But that's language. Language is also always changing, right? You can't say it's wrong, right? It's just colloquial English, right? Okay. So we have a teacher here, Miss Brown, and her students, okay? and they are talking. So Miss Brown asks her student, what is grammar? And he answers, rules. She says, no, grammar is about meaning. Okay? What is important in grammar is meaning, not the rules. The rules are part of grammar. So how do we learn grammar? The teacher asks. And the student answers. Practice the rules again and again. And the teacher says, no, no, and no. Of course, you can practice the rules. You need to practice the rules, but that's not all. You need to understand it, to internalize it. Right? Let me show you, the teacher says. I don't understand. Let's learn comparatives. You have a chart there with comparatives, type of adjective, one syllable, common chart that you find in many course books, right? And then you have the activities, right? Canada is bigger than China, but Russia is the biggest country. Monkeys are small, but ants are smaller, right? A simple exercise. So she asks the student to do it. And then she asks the student, did you enjoy that? And the student says, well, it's normal. How about this? What can you hear? What can you hear? Tiger. Any ideas? No, it's another animal.
Another animal?
Yes. Again. Strange. It's a hippo.
Hippo.
Yes. Another animal. Ideas? And this is a snake. Okay? It's a snake. Right. So tell me, is the hippo big or small? Big. And the snake, is it big? Not so much, right? So the hippo is bigger than the snake, right? And the tiger, is the tiger bigger than the hippo? No, the tiger is smaller. Suppose you are my class, right? Okay. Now, tell me 5 animals smaller than you. 5 animals smaller than you. Come on. Dog, cat. Okay, you got the idea, right? Okay, dog, cat, monkey, mouse, and bird. Well done. Now listen to 2 people talking. I'm not going to play the audio because I don't have the audio. But we have 2 people talking here. Alessandro from Italy. His mother tongue is Italian and learning Spanish and German. And Paula from Argentina, mother tongue Spanish, learning English and Portuguese. Okay? So he's learning Spanish and German. Alessandro. So my Spanish is good. It's better than my German. Of course, for me, Spanish is easier than German. That's because it's got a lot of words that are almost the same as Italian. The grammar is very similar too. So I compared the languages, right? And Paula, Portuguese pronunciation, no, English pronunciation is difficult for me, but of course, no, the opposite, yes. Portuguese pronunciation is difficult for me, but of course English pronunciation is more difficult. I never know how to pronounce a new word because the writing and the pronunciation are often very different. And then you have an activity. Underline examples of comparisons in the text in exercise 2. Then complete the table. So the students have to underline where they find the comparison and then complete the table, right? Easy. Comparative, what do you think? Easier, right? Now difficult. So we have the example here, more difficult. What's the difference between this table here and the other table that I presented first? Similar, but simpler? Yes, it's simpler. You see, you have examples. You don't have long explanations. Right? Have very simple explanations. And you have things for students to think. Right? Okay? So it's a kind of inductive grammar. Right? So students have to complete this based on this. So if long is longer, short is probably shorter. If it's important, it's more important. Difficult is probably more difficult. So you're making your students think about grammar. You're not just giving them the rules. And you are not saying like, if it's a short adjective, one syllable, you have to put ER in the end. No, they can understand from the context that short one-syllable adjectives or short adjectives get the ER. And if it's a longer adjective, it gets more, right? Okay, see the difference? So they are internalizing it. They are learning it from context. Have difficult. If a student doesn't understand it or doesn't figure it out, then you have to explain, right? Not a lot of exercises, yes. Yes, especially the exceptions, right? Exceptions are terrible, right? Okay. Of course, so you present the comparatives, and then you have an activity to prepare it, to practice it, to practice, right? So the teacher goes back to the student. So which did you enjoy most? I liked the animal sounds. Me too. Grammar can be fun, right? Yes, so students usually like grammar, but only when it's interactive, when it's fun. Right? If you just present the grammar rules, most people will be bored. Do you agree? Yes. Okay. But isn't English grammar a group of rules that the student asks? Think of grammar as a foundation, the base of a building or structure that supports the rest of the building. All right? So grammar rules are important, yes, but they are only the foundation. They are the foundation. They are the base of the language, right? Can you communicate without grammar? I think you can. Me, Tarzan, you Jane. You are not communicating? Yes. I go movies yesterday. Am I communicating? Yes. Is the grammar correct? No. No. So you can, right? But of course, you need, in order, sometimes if you don't use grammar, you can make big mistakes, right? You can cause big confusion in communication, right? Misunderstandings, that's right. Okay, so grammar is important, but you can still do without it, right? Okay. So how do we improve our grammar? Well, practice. As you said, students need to practice, right? If they don't practice, chances are they are going to forget how to use it, right? So practice, practice, practice. Yes, is important, I agree. Self-study, right? The grammar is something that usually students can learn by themselves in many situations. Of course, not everything, but in many situations they can learn by themselves. Especially the most simple grammar rules like plural, punctuation, or I don't know, like simple past, future, right?
And writing, no?
Writing, yes, yes, in writing. Reading, they learn a lot of grammar in reading. Okay. Or even playing video game or watching series on Netflix or something, right? Okay.
Sometimes the students make practice say that, but this grammar is completely different from Portuguese. Sometimes
Yes, yes, they want to compare. That's the problem. Yeah, that's the problem of teaching grammar to a foreigner, right? We are always comparing, right? And if something is different, then it's more difficult for us to understand, right? That's why we teach the rules, the grammar rules, right? Especially to adults. The adults want to understand how the language works. They don't want just to repeat, right? They want to understand how it works. Okay. Have you heard of this book? Famous, a classic, right? English Grammar News. The 3 versions. Essential is the easiest. Would be the intermediate, and then Advanced Grammar News, right? This is the most famous grammar book in the world. Okay? And why is it famous? It has been famous for almost more than 20 years. Okay? And it's famous because it's very simple to use. It's very practical. It's very objective. Okay? So we have the simple rule and then activities to practice the rule. That's it. Doesn't make any fuss about grammar. Okay? We also have dictionaries. Dictionaries can help, right? But we also have new things like apps, online courses, right? Grammar in Rule, for example, English Grammar in Rule has an app. Okay, so if you go to iOS or to Android and go to the store there and look for English Grammar in Rule, you will find the app. I will show you in a minute. So, how do we students, improve our grammar? Oh, it's the same, sorry. Cambridge has also a book for games, grammar games, right? Have you ever used games in the classroom for grammar, for teaching grammar, for practicing grammar? You don't use games to teach, right? Usually you use games to practice, right? Yeah, so this book is very interesting. It's photocopyable, okay? So you can take copies of the activities for free. You don't need to pay anything.
is it a new one?
No, it's quite old. It's quite old, yes. Okay, so I found an activity here about comparatives. Since we're talking about comparatives, I found a game about comparatives. And it's interesting because in the introduction, you have the ideas behind the activities and some practical tips about using this material. Okay? And even variations in some cases. All right? And I found this, especially this sentence, I found it interesting. Teaching, not testing. The activities in the book are meant to give learners an opportunity to practice and experiment with language. For this reason, many of them present a lot of input while requiring relatively little production in the target structure. This encourages learners to concentrate on processing the meaning of target structures instead of pressuring them to produce such constructions before they are ready to. See, it's talking here about what? Meaning again. Okay? And this was by chance. I started writing about meaning and I found this. So it was interesting. So this activity I'm going to show is called How Do They Compare? Okay? And you have here the language focus, the level intermediate, and it's a dominoes game. The topic is open, and interaction is a group. You can form groups of as many students as you like, right? But normally they recommend 3 to 5, but you can form groups of 2 or more than 5. No, I don't recommend. From 2 to 5, okay? So in this game, learners are given an opportunity to practice the comparative forms of adjectives and to review or expand vocabulary as well. The game taps into their creativity and as it requires them to find original comparisons to win the game. Peer correction and group discussions are also encouraged here. Okay, so how does it work? So we have these cards here with 2 pictures in each. Okay? Little cards, and they are like domino pieces. Okay? So you have one here with a mouse and another with a computer. It's a mouse and a computer. So each piece here has a different pictures, different objects, different things, right? And what do students need to do? They need to compare those things, okay? And sometimes it's very difficult. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's very difficult, right? So they need to use their creativity. And they need to form sentences like this. For example, if you have a tortoise in one and a rabbit in the other, you could say a tortoise is slower than a rabbit. If you have gardening in one picture and fishing in the other, you can say gardening is more tiring than fishing. If you have checks in one and you have credit cards in the other, you can say, for example, checks are not as convenient as credit cards. Not so easy, right? Yeah. And how do you play? Like a domino game. So if you can make the sentence, you put the card. Let me give you another, because I didn't cut properly. Okay? So if you can make the sentence, you put the card. If you can't make a sentence, you pass. And the winner is the first person to finish all their cards. Okay? Or their domino pieces. So let's try to play it. Let's form pairs. Okay? Let's try to form pairs. Okay. Of course, you are teachers, so I didn't review the vocabulary with you, right? But with your students, it's always a good idea to review vocabulary first, or in some cases, even teach new vocabulary, right? So you have the list of vocabulary in the book here, right? Watching TV, tortoise, rabbit, theater, going to the theater, going to the cinema, hourglass, alarm clock, cat, lion. So you also have all the vocabulary there to review with your students before doing the activity, right? Otherwise, they will keep asking you, what's this, what's this, what's this, right? So it's always a good idea to review it. How did you like the game? It's nice, right? It's fun, right? And one thing I especially like about this game is that it uses or it enables your students to practice 21st century skills. Have you heard of the 21st century skills? I think I have already spoken about them here. Okay? You were here, right? You remember that I spoke about 21st century skills? So what are the 21st century skills? There are the 4 C's. Collaboration, communication, creativity, and critical thinking.